Am I on? Am I here? Can everyone hear me? Okay. Let me know. I'm in. I'm producing from my bunker in parts unknown. Though I still have my supply of Spindrift, Blackberry. I had some issues getting set up here. Sorry I'm late. Chat is already super active. I already sent my apologies to the chat. And also my mouse here up here isn't working. All right, everybody hears me okay. Good. So yesterday we had that great talk with Mr. Hobbs about low fantasy gaming. Oh my gosh, my voice is nasally. And he mentioned a couple of concepts I thought were really interesting, or at least they intrigued me. So I thought, why not? While the fire is hot, so to speak, the hammer is hot, why not just delve in there and take a look at them, see what the text says. Darren says, my secret command center is miles below the Atlantic. Something like that. So let me go ahead and get it up. I'm a little bit out of sorts. I feel like I'm behind, which I am. All right, let's see. Here we go. This is from the free version. Now, let's all comes up in a second. Let's pop it on here. From the free version. Now, Mr. Hobbs did say that because I mentioned on Discord, on the Low Fantasy Gaming Discord, which seems to be populated by excellent folks. They have embraced me with open arms when I joined yesterday. Mentioned that some of this might only be in the deluxe version. This is the free version of the rules. I do not own the deluxe version. If I had the deluxe version, I would use it. This is the free version that you can get on drive-thru. The link was in yesterday's stream, and it also is in today's stream. So we will see how much of this is actually here. Now, I'm not going to go through this line by line, page by page. As I said in the title of this, in the description, I'm going to concentrate particularly on luck, then on exploits, and if we can find it, there was that rescue mechanic, which I thought was really cool. If we have time, one of the folks over at the Discord sent me an equipment book that they had made. On Discord, he's Wikisnapper, so thanks a bunch to Wikisnapper. If we have time, if we don't get to the bottom, or if we get through everything that there is in here, and there's still some time, thought we could take a peek at that book. But let's start off where we can. So we need to go to page 11. Here we go. So first, luck. Every adventurer has a special 8th attribute called luck, primarily representing fate and good fortune. Luck also reflects a character's accumulated experience dealing with perilous hazards and dangers. There are 2 kinds of luck rolls, luck saves and luck checks. If I'm remembering, Mr. Hobbs said that they don't have the classic saving throws. Instead, you'll use your luck, and then also I think luck for different checks, which is what we're getting here. So we have 2 ways we'll interface with this luck attribute, one through saves and the other one through checks. Let's make sure I'm at the bottom of the check. Okay, so nobody's, other than Terrence commenting about the location, my underground bunker, all is good in the chat. And again, especially because my setup is kind of new, let me know if there's anything funky, if my voice is too loud, if I'm hitting the limiter and it's breaking up, anything like that. Just let me know so I can adjust. Because the one thing in this location, I have plenty of power to adjust things. Lots more dials and things over here than I do at home. Okay. Luck saves are for resisting serious adverse effects such as spells, traps, special monster attacks, or major environmental hazards, particularly those with an area of effect. Luck saves are made in response to an attack or active danger, as opposed to an action you instigate, which are generally covered by attribute checks. Luck checks are primarily for major exploits and rescues. Alright, so rescues seems like are in here, which is good. C, combat, which we will, which rely on the luck resource to pull off. Luck is a flexible and ephemeral quality, however, and it has some additional uses, e.g. party-wide retreats from combat. We might take a look at that too, if we have time. Your table might devise other uses for it. In playtesting, for example, one player made a luck check to choose which kind of creature he summoned via a monster summoning spell, rather than rolling randomly. So I think the idea here is that We're given these specific uses for luck, but then we can also use luck for a myriad of other purposes if we so choose in our games. At the start of an adventure, a character's luck attribute is equal to 10 plus half their level, round up. To make a luck roll, you roll a d20 and apply any modifiers. If the result is equal to or less than the current luck attribute, the test is successful. Note that a character's reroll pool, explained later, is available for all luck rolls. A successful luck roll means the character avoids the threat or lessens its effect or performs the intended martial exploit. A luck roll may be modified by an attribute bonus or penalty depending on the nature of the attack or hazard. For example, an adventurer's dex modifier applies to dodging out of the way of a lightning bolt spell. In such a case, the notation would be a luck, parenthetically, dex save. Every time an adventurer succeeds in a luck roll, their luck attribute is reduced by 1 point, to a minimum of half their level, round up. Luck is not reduced on a failed check. So there's a couple of things, I think, automatically. Like, we're using luck for this, a number of different things. We're going to see later for exploits and rescues. We can also extend it if we want to use it for stuff like summoning monsters or anything else that we want. We can also combine it with attributes for something like we want to make a dodge kind of save. Then we can have luck, and it can be modified by the dex attribute if we want that. And of course, we could do different things if we wanted luck, constitution. I mean, you could really make the saves and have your, what was it, in 3rd edition that people really like, the fortitude. Was it fortitude save, something, reflex, fortitude, and something else? But you could have that same kind of flavor using luck. The interesting thing here is if you're successful in something that you use luck, you lose a point of luck. So you want to be careful with how much you're engaging with stuff, but you're not being penalized on failure. So you're not going to get a double fail state, which is nice. If you already fail your dodge roll, and so you're hit full force by the lightning bolt or by the fireball or whatever it is, you don't get double dinged by then having your luck reduced. But I do like that it gives you a little bit of, I don't want to call it a ticking clock, but it's one of those resources that you have to manage. You're only going to start with so many, and it might seem like a lot. We'll say at first level, I guess you're going to start with 11, right? Half their level round up, so that half level, you start with 10.5, round up to 11. But then traps, all these things you're trying to do, boom, 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 you're starting to grind down your luck score. Regaining luck. Generally speaking, luck returns at a rate of 1 point per long rest. And if we recall from the conversation in the other stream, long rests are not an overnight. It's not your 8-hour 5th edition long rest. I think Mr. Hobbs said it was maybe a week or multiple days. So you're not going to be getting luck back every time you go camp for the night. You probably want to look at it, or at least I would look at it maybe as a GM and also if I was a player, in that you're going to do somewhat of adventure and you're going to go through, and then when you're taking that more extended break, maybe between segments, maybe after adventures or between segments of a longer campaign, when you have time to take that downtime, then you can kind of regenerate your luck over that, however much time those long rests take. But it's not overnight, so you're not getting, you can't like do a 1-for-1, spend 1 point in the dungeon, go to sleep, and then get that point back. It's going to be drained. We have some box text called Designer's Thoughts. Although hit points, spells, and other abilities tend to replenish regularly, relying on luck gets riskier the longer an adventure goes on. Diminishing luck is intended to serve several purposes. Firstly, players must make choices about when to use their luck. Secondly, it ratchets up the danger as the adventure progresses. Thirdly, in conjunction with short rests, see injuries and healing, and random encounters, it incentivizes pressing on with an adventure rather than looking for a place to camp. For longer adventures, or for tables who like to engage in frequent side treks, you might consider allowing luck to replenish more quickly. So a couple things. I like this little box. It just gives you a little bit of behind the curtain is, what are they thinking when they made these particular decisions, which I always enjoy. It gives you a suggestion if you feel like your party is doing a lot. Because it seems like one of the things that this luck is designed to, as they mentioned, was to get folks to press on and do things. If your party is already moving at a very high pace, maybe you don't need to you don't want them to slow the pace down and have to replenish luck. So you want to give them, okay, you're already going at a pace that we want, so here, you can replenish luck quickly. This is meant to be more, well, if your party is going to be kind of turtling up and going, 1 room rest, Second room, rest. They will be frustrated, not frustrated, but they will find that their luck, that resource that's used for a lot of things, is still diminishing, even though they're getting hit points and stuff back. So maybe they'll think, maybe we shouldn't take all these rests. We're not getting back what we need. Our luck is still going down. We better just get through this so that we can take a week off and get some serious luck back. The Dave says in chat, and welcome the Dave. Excuse me. It is also really nice because a low-level character with really high stats isn't too much better than the player that had a bad roll. Oh, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Right, because your luck is not based on your attributes. It's not one of these, well, your strength plus your con plus your dex, so that you're, again, advantaging the people who rolled all the 18s. Right. In this case, it's just half your level and 10. So everybody, regardless of how well or poorly they did, has the same amount of luck. And I do appreciate that, and I always appreciate mechanics, especially for old school games, OSR type things, that really lean on your advancement, because that's really the thing. Like I don't mind if you get a little bit of a bump here and there from your stats starting out of the gate. That's fine. You get rewarded for being lucky in your rolls, but over time, I always like it when it's your class progressions that are really going to be the determinants of how you perform. And luck follows that same thing, because you're going to get more luck as you level up. The higher level you are, the more luck you'll start out with. So, yep, I like that a lot. All right, so that is luck. I don't think I'm going to kind of skip forward a bit. So I want to find, we can check out the long rest stuff, but I'll just kind of skim through this so you can get a feel. It's got some nice art in here, so it's going through different classes. We get our rogues. Remember, Mr. Hobbs mentioned unique features, so that's kind of cool. We see that. We have some skills. Party bonds. Bonds are always good. We got our races, dwarves, elves. Do they have humans? Or I guess humans. I think we said that this is kind of defaults to sort of humans are your... Yeah, there we go. Humans are often the center. But you have some dwarves and elves if you want. Scroll through. We get our equipment. And we might take a look at that equipment book if we have time. Okay. Should we look at the checks? Let's see. We'll just go through. I think I feel like, attribute checks are pretty familiar to those of us, so I feel like don't need to really go through those too much. I don't think it's doing anything particularly crazy. Okay, here we are into combat, right? This is into combat. Okay, here we go. Next on cue. Some Spindrift for the working man. We are now at martial exploits. Adventurers may attempt minor, major, and rescue exploits as outlined below. Major and rescue exploits are exclusive to player characters. Minor exploits. Characters may attempt various minor exploits during combat, often but not always improvised to fit the situation at hand. Minor exploits are limited to one target and have instant or short durations, often 1 round or less. They occur as part of an attack action. Minor exploits cover the usual range of combat options found in most tabletop RPGs, for example, tripping, pushing, disarming, or grabbing hold of an enemy. The GM determines whether a proposed exploit is possible. For a minor exploit to occur, the character must first hit and cause damage as normal. The GM then makes a ruling to resolve the exploit. For example, I think we definitely going to need some examples. An opposed strength check to knock an opponent, I think that's a typo, knock an opponent off their feet, grab hold of them with one hand, drive them backwards 10 feet, or throw them through a window. An opposed dex check to throw sand in an opponent's eyes, temporarily blinding them for 1 round. An opposed dex check, perhaps modified by level, to disarm. Alright, so let me just back up a bit. I don't think it's clear here. I am imagining, though someone, maybe the Dave or somebody else who's familiar in chat can enlighten me. Oh, looks like there's an example. Let me hit the example first, because then maybe that will illuminate. Because I'm kind of wondering when as a player do you declare that you're trying to do a minor exploit? But let's read I'll read down. We'll read the example, and then if I have to backtrack to clarify things, there we go. Excuse me. Different GMs will make different rulings to suit their table. The above are a guide only. If the exploit is successful, the intended outcome occurs. The target is tripped, or thrown through the window, etc. The GM makes a ruling to determine the effect. Here's the example. While fighting some beastmen, an adventurer attempts to open a gash on his opponent's brow to blind him with his own blood. The player rolls a 16 to hit and causes 3 points of damage. The GM then calls for an opposed dex check to see if the wound is in the right location to cause a brow bleed. The check succeeds, and the slash opens a messy wound above the beastman's eyes, temporarily blinding him until the end of his next turn. Okay. So it seems from the example that the player, you're going to declare it before you make your attack. And then we go through, the GM will decide, I presume you have to succeed. I think it said you have to succeed. You succeed, so or you hit, so therefore you can try. Then you roll some dice, and then boom, you got the blinded. See, the Dave says, Steve's intent was to have players' declaration before the roll was made. I have heard him say it should be up to the GM and the table though. Okay. Ian asks, is there a trade-off to doing a minor exploit, or is it intended that you would attempt one every attack? It doesn't seem, Ian, from what I'm reading here, and this is the all we have on the minor exploit, that there's no. It seems like there's no reason not to do that stuff. It would be interesting if there was some kind of consequence of failure, but it doesn't look like that is intended in the system as written. Of course, we can add it in, but as it stands, it seems like it's just a freebie that you can do. So those are minor exploits. We still have major exploits. All adventurers, now, or just to recall, major exploits are only for player characters, though maybe we could say that big bad guys or sort of main beasties might have, we could probably give them some major exploits as well. But let's see what they are, because maybe they don't. Maybe they don't entirely seem fair if our ancient red dragon is pulling out a major exploit. All adventurers may attempt major exploits, impressive feats of power and skill that inspire allies and turn the tide of battle. Major exploits are exclusive to PCs. An adventurer might shatter a foe's weapon, impale a wolf on a fence spike, grab an enemy in each hand and crack their skulls together, stunning both of them, decapitate an ogre, subject to the hit dice rule below, or cut off a wyvern's wing. During playtesting, some successful major exploits included spearing a Tyrannosaurus Rex in one eye, causing it to suffer perk penalties and a 33% mischance. I think that's perception, because I believe we were told that there is an actual separate perception stat in low fantasy gaming. Scaring off a band of men eating monkeys with an impressive display of martial ferocity. Man, oh. I totally read that wrong. I thought, like, here you have a band of men who are eating monkeys. And I'm just thinking, why are they eating monkeys and why do you need to scare them off? But now I get it there. The monkeys are the man-eaters. A band of man-eating monkeys. I gotcha. I think maybe a dash in there might have man-eating. Oh, what a help. But I kind of like the idea of a band of men who are monkey-eaters. That's something. Making wild swings with a cold iron flail to drive away 3 shades clustered around a fallen ally. Ooh. Had a little bit of that kind of Dementors from Prisoners of Azkaban feel. Let's see. The Dave says, you can attempt one every attack, but once you fail, you can't try again until the situation has changed, just as the monster becoming bloody. Aha. Well, that's something that's not mentioned unless we'll see it maybe at the end. But that's an interesting rule. So you can try it, but you don't make it. Now, Dave, is it that you cannot try that same thing again, or you cannot try a minor exploit again? So, for example, if I try to trip the troll and I fail to trip it, can I still try to shove the troll, or can I just not do anything to the troll until something happens with the troll? Taryn says, monkeys. And then Dave says, that is in the deluxe book. Aha! And I think, okay. So Dave says, you can't try another exploit again if memory serves. Okay. So some of this has been clarified in the deluxe book, so I guess I'll give that little disclaimer. I'm looking at the free rules, the deluxe book, which I'm guessing is both deluxe, and also I'm assuming maybe a later, perhaps more finalized version of the rules. Some of this might be different. If I can get a chance to look at that at some point, I will. Until then, we shall muddle on with the free rules. But hey, and just shout out for thumbs up for providing free rules at all. That's really nice, and I know a lot of folks, myself included, appreciate being able to get a sense of what the game is without having to shell out the big bucks. Even though that book and Mr. Hobbs showed it yesterday, that big book looked mad pretty in print form. Okay. Major exploits may affect more than one target and can result in very serious and permanent effects, including death. Subject to the rules below, they are limited only by the player's imagination and the scenario at hand. All right, so we do have some limits and things, which is good because then you don't want first-player characters just beheading Tarrasques, by hitting a major exploit. And I don't think we have. Do we have the rules yet? Is it the same rules as in terms of the checks? I guess we will see, and we do have an example to come. So on to the rules. First, major exploits do not increase hit point damage to a single target, but might increase total damage by affecting multiple targets. Second, major exploits cannot instantly kill or incapacitate a single target unless the target's hit dice are less than the adventurer's level. Third, special exceptions apply to boss monsters. And then finally, fourth, the GM has the final say on whether a proposed exploit is possible. So the big thing to note, you can't insta-kill anything that has more HD than you have class levels. You can't quadruplify or something the damage done from your attack, but maybe you can. It seems like you could use a major exploit to, say, do one of those sweeping attacks where you hit 5 goblins for whatever amount of damage you rolled, right? So you roll 5, and so you do 5 damage to 3 goblins. You've done 15 damage total, but no individual goblin took more than the original 5 points of damage. I think is kind of what that's going on. Boss monsters might get some kind of special, I'm guessing, protection from major exploits. Let's get down to the next bits, which I think are going to explain how this works. For a major exploit to occur, the adventurer usually needs to first hit and cause damage as normal. The adventurer then makes a luck check, modified at the GM's discretion. If the check is successful, the exploit occurs, and the character's luck attribute is reduced by 1, as usual. The GM makes a ruling to determine the effect. So this is where, so remember, for the minor exploits, you did not have to engage with luck, so you can do minor exploits with the limitation, I think that might be in the deluxe book that the Dave mentioned, which is you get basically one shot. You can do one exploit on someone until they have a change in their situation. But those minor ones, you can, within those limitations, you're not losing luck. So you can feel free to kind of run around the battlefield trying to minor exploit every different opponent you can. Go for it. If you want to do something major, you do have to engage with that luck. So that means that the good outcome means you're going to lose 1 luck, which is going to be a little bit of a mitigating factor, or a factor that's going to control how often you do that, because luck is used in so many things. You don't want to go around just spending all your luck on major exploits. Then when you need to save versus falling into a bottomless pit, you have so little luck that it becomes really tough, right? So it's a nice balancing factor. Brian Smith with the Kramer entrance in the chat. I like that. And then the Dave says, if you succeed, you can keep doing exploits. Once you fail, you can't do another. Okay, good. So you can kind of, you have to run with your successes. I kind of like that. You can kind of, it's a bit of a push your luck kind of thing, right? But I think that was for minor exploits. Maybe for major too. I don't know. But for major, you want to be careful because that you're draining your luck the more you hit. Now let's get to the example. Whilst fighting some giant scorpions, an adventurer attempts to sever one monster's poisonous stinger. The GM decides the action is standard for a major exploit in his campaign and does not impose any modifiers. The player rolls an 18 to hit and causes 7 hit points damage. She then makes a luck check and succeeds. With a bloody spray, the scorpion's venomous barb spins off into the sand. Well, see, that's a cool thing, right? Well, I think this a lot of players I think will appreciate that on the and I don't know the odds. I mean, I suppose we could go into any dice and try to figure out what it is, how to do it. You're not going to have a ton of luck. So let's see. If you're at first level, you've got 11 luck, which means if you do nothing else and then go for a major exploit, for example, in this example, you're going for a major exploit against this scorpion. To do that, you've got a 55% chance of success, I want to say, right? 50%, and I think for a D20. So a 55% chance of success. Then, of course, having done that, great. You've detached the tail from the scorpion. I would definitely roll some kind of morale for the scorpion at a pretty big penalty, and see if it just kind of scuttles off to go. I don't know. Would it just? I imagine it might even just die of ichor loss. I don't know. Can a scorpion live without its tail very long? Maybe it can. Anyway, but that's like a really big fight end, or at least for that particular scorpion. But now you're down to 50%, and if you run into a trap or anything in the next room where you need it, or there's something else, another scorpion's gonna maybe has got a venom spray and tries to spray you, and you got to use it. Then suddenly your chances of dodging that stuff is getting lower and lower. But it does make you feel like a badass. And I think I like that there's this kind of, I always love those press your luck kind of things. Like, great, exploit to your heart's content, but then when you need that luck and you've drained it all because you've been running around chopping off scorpion tails, maybe you would have thought, I should have saved some of those. I should have banked some of those away. So those are your major exploits. Now on to rescues. In certain situations, an adventurer may attempt a rescue exploit, which can only be used to protect another person or thing. Rescue exploits are only available when it is not the adventurer's turn in response to something happening within approximately 30 feet. A rescue allows one player to negate or reverse an adverse event for another player or NPC. Rescues are exclusive to PCs. I think I can see now why the reason is only for PCs is because you're kind of negating an action, and I think when you're a GM, does it feel fun if you thought like your enemy that you've been controlling, or this creature you're controlling, is going to do something amazing or does something amazing, and then the player goes, haha, rescue, and then foils it and sort of rewinds the clock? No. But you've got all kinds of other stuff, right? When you're a player, if your GM were to use it and say, oh no, the bugbear captain slides in and prevents this cool thing you're trying to do from happening, feels cheap. So I could see why they're like, you know what, let's just leave this for PCs only. NPCs can have any other tricks that they want. Brian Smith says, it's always satisfying, at a satisfying end when you spent all your luck and now it's run out. Seems fair when the scorpion finally snips your tail off after you've done it to 8 other ones. Yep. That's a good point, Brian Smith. The Dave says, that depends on the type of GM you are. I'm always rooting for my players, but I never pull my punches. Oh, I wasn't seriously pulling at punches. I simply in that I could see why they wouldn't want to give that, because I'm definitely a non-punch pulling GM, but I just think I just feel like he's being conscious of the fact that it doesn't feel fun as a player when your DM is undoing things you've done, even if it's even here there's a mechanic. Here, I think having that be like a player only thing to me is fine. I like, your NPC's got all kinds of other tricks and what other stuff they can throw out there. But if the players do something cool, don't take it away from them. Basically, is how I read that, right? Because the exploit, that rescue is something cool to but it undoes something. When you're undoing something to an NPC, not a big deal. If you're undoing something to the player, it kind of feels a little rotten. So let's read how this works. The player must explain to the table how his adventurer intends to achieve the rescue. A rescue might include such things as pushing another adventurer out of harm's way, using a shield to deflect arrows targeting an ally, or grabbing hold of a henchman as they plummet into a pit trap. If the GM agrees that rescue is possible, the adventurer must first make a successful dex check to move into position, react fast enough to intervene, etc. If the adventurer moves out of melee, enemies within reach get a free attack as normal. Finally, the rescuers must make a successful luck check, modified at the GM's discretion. If the luck check is successful, the rescue occurs, the rescuer's luck attribute is reduced by 1 as usual. Alright, so before we read their example, I'm just going to see if I have this correctly. So we're in a kind of a melee. Maybe I'm the fighter, and one of the other players is the wizard over there, and they're about to do something, but maybe they're at the edge of a precipice because we're fighting on some kind of ledge, and a bugbear or something shoves them, and it appears that they are falling off the ledge. Right? They roll whatever, and the GM's like, "Yep, you are falling." And I go, "Whoa, fighter Widdershins," which is a name I often use in especially computer role-playing games. Widdershins, the fighter. He tries to scramble, and just dive and slide across the ground and reach into the chasm with his arm and grab the wizard by its robe and stop them from falling into the chasm. And so we look either theater of the mind, and we look at our minis or whatever on the table, and okay, we count the squares or whatever we're doing. Okay, yeah, I think you're in about 30 feet. You can do that. Of course, I was fighting a bugbear, so as I turn my back to race across, having had that premonition or that spider sense, if you will, then they get to hit me. Hopefully, they don't kill me before I can do that. Then I will make my luck check. If I make my luck check, then all has happened as I thought, and I'm able to have the wizard grabbed. If not, presumably, though it doesn't seem to say what happens if you fail, I guess that I slid over and my arm is hanging over and my head's looking down the chasm, but I just see the wizard falling away, and I just go no in slow motion. So that's my read of it. Let's see the example that the book gives us. An enemy sorcerer unleashes a blast of lightning at the party's magic user, who fails her luck save and is reduced to 0 hit points. The party rogue declares a rescue, attempting to push his comrade out of harm's way. The GM agrees and calls for a dex check, which the rogue successfully makes. The rogue then makes a luck check, rolling a d20 and scoring a 4, well under his luck attribute of 12. Remember, we're rolling under. With a warning shout, the rogue barrels into the magic user, sending both sprawling out of the path of the sizzling blast. So it seems like, or let me read this first, because I feel like something, again, I like about this whole system, all engaging with this luck attribute, is there going to be plenty of times when you're going to want it to do these things. But you're going to have to be a little bit measured, because you're not going to get them back. If you're playing Keep on the Borderlands, let's say, and you're in your first foray into the Borderland, into the Caves of Chaos area, and you're level 1, and everyone's sitting on 11 luck points. Okay, you're pushing people out of the way. You're hacking off some things like this, and you're watching your luck go down. You're going to start to think about, or you should be thinking about, if you don't start that way, I think very quickly you'll start thinking about, can I rescue them? Okay, they're going to get hit by this thing. Ooh, I think I kind of got to let it go, because I might be next and I might need it for myself, or I could try to do this other thing, but I don't know if I should. Which are those agonizing decisions that I really appreciate. And because it may seem like you have this big ball of luck, wow, I got 11, I can do 11 of these things, but then you start seeing all these different areas where they're going to keep ticking down. It makes it, I feel like there's a nice, that kind of agonizing kind of choice in a good way of when you're going to want to do that. And you're going to want to hold off doing a bunch of major exploits if you think someone's going to need help. Or if you're going to need help. Failed exploits. If a minor, major, or rescue exploit fails, a character may not attempt another exploit against the same target until the circumstances significantly change in their favor. Okay, so this is what I was asking about before. So it's not just in the deluxeified version, it's also here. And circumstance changes might be the target becomes staggered, an ally comes to assist, etc. The GM will determine what qualifies as a significant change. At the GM's discretion, a natural 20 on an exploit luck check may result in a special setback. In the rescue example above, for instance, both the magic rogue and the magic user might have been caught in the lightning blast. Ooh, so that would have been bad. So if you kind of crit fail your rescue, potentially maybe you're grabbing the magic user and you're trying to push them away, but then you both are kind of touching or really close, and then you get hit by the electricity and your touch sends it on the magic user and you both get zapped. That's pretty nasty, by the way. All right, let's see. We got some stuff in the chat here. Here we go. The Dave says, your hands touch for a moment, then the wizard's glove slips off his hand as you stand back up. The only thing you have left of your wizard friend is his glove. Damn you, a glove! I like that, the Dave. The Dave also says, you start thinking, I have enough hit points to take that attack. I am not rolling to get out of the way of that blast. Yep. And it certainly gives you that kind of class vibe, right? Of the fighter is going to say, I'm going to take the damage. But the wizard or the rogue are going to be like, no, I'm going to try to jump out of the way and use that luck. But on something else, they might be like, I can take that. And the fighter's going, nope, got to use my luck. Terrence says, surprise, it's the glove of storing that he hid inside at the last second. Nice, Terrence. Oh, and Brian Smith then says, and that's how we got the name Glovey the Fortunate. Ooh, or Dave said, the Dave says you grab the wizard who's falling off the ledge and you slide off with him. That actually happened. Well, not quite exactly that. So I will. Since it seems like we have plenty of time here, I'll tell this little story. I think I've probably told it before, so apologies if you've heard this already. But it was kind of an awesome moment in my play-by-post game. It was. I had this part of a little dungeon area, and I'll close this up because I'm going to bring up that equipment book. I don't think there's anything else. Oh, you know what? Wait, hold on. I'll save the story for a minute. Do we have a crit hits? Okay, we have crit hits and fumbles. You can knock people out. I guess I do want to just check on that long rest. Here we go. Whoops. So just because it is kind of germane to the discussion about getting luck back, so a long rest requires 1d6 days of predominantly low-key activity. Intermittent battle and modest travel is permissible, but the majority of the day must be spent resting. Recovering in an inn or other safe and comfortable location reduces the time required to 1d4 days. So it's kind of random. I think myself, I might just say a week. I think I might just make those. And the other thing I'd be curious about is if these rest rolls are player facing, or are they behind the screen? So the players don't know how much time they take, and I'll just say, oh, after 3 days you get it back this time, but next time might be 5. Or if they roll, I might just say 7 days and 4 days, or 3 days, something like that. But so we know that it's got a variable amount of time. If you're in kind of a safe space, you're essentially dividing it not quite in half, but pretty much in half. Though there's some variability there because we're rolling dice. So the benefits of a long rest are: 1, all expended class abilities are restored. All expended reroll pool dice are restored. All attribute point losses are restored, not including luck. But you do recover 1 point of luck, and you recover half of any lost hit points, and plus you roll for some other ones. So there you go. So, but we're definitely looking at long rest. And the interesting thing here is, and given I am as my love for hex crawls and things like that, is you can be traveling. So you could be spending your time traveling. In fact, maybe that even plays into your mindset as a party. If you're like, okay, we finished this dungeon, we're all seriously low on luck. We could try to go the most direct way to our next stop, but it looks like it's going to be dangerous. It's going to be short, or we could maybe go back to the main road and take the longer way around, but give us a chance to rest and recuperate. Maybe we'll get to stop at an inn and then tack off some time there. Maybe we'll be able to just take it kind of the slow road and just recover as we travel as well. The Dave says, I have every player at the table roll, so some players have their rest and others don't, and then I occasionally throw stuff at them while they aren't all recovered. Ooh, that's nasty. That's interesting. They have their own Hold on a second. Is that better? Is that better? I think my plug accidentally came out. I am very animated, Ian. Yep. Yep. All right. I lost my mic sound. Let me know. Somebody let me know. I should be back. Okay, that's better. Now how far did I get in my story? How far did I get before you cut out when I was marching around in my head speaking and nobody can hear me? Did I get into it all? Do I need to start all over? Somebody in chat, let me know. I'm getting this ready. Right, oh man, right before I switched to full screen. Okay, you guys didn't hear anything. All right, so I'll try to make this quick because I have trade winds open now. So basically, the party was moving into the party was going to a temple that led to an underground area that had a chasm separated that broke up the underground portion into two halves. There was the chasm. There was a bridge that was crossing the chasm. In the chasm, and kind of wandering around with these giant. I think they were called camel spiders, but they're basically like they're kind of spiders, but they've got pincers and they bite. They're kind of like, I don't know, spider, scorpion kind of things. Anyway, they were giant. They were moving around. Well, the what happened was, for whatever reason, they dispatched a couple of the spiders dispatched a couple of spiders that were on their side of where they came in on their side of the cavern, and then the magic user, for whatever reason, just was feeling himself. Maybe thought like, hey, everything's clear. Marches across the bridge, kind of taking lead and just kind of going off. Well, there were other camel spiders on the other side. Actually, one of them was kind of in the chasm. One of them was in this other room, chewing on a dead priest. And so he ends up being in the front of the battle where he never wanted to be. Ends up in trouble. I believe I want to say it was the camel spider that was in the chasm, ends up coming out of the chasm, and they had this kind of basically two big sort of, if you think about scorpion like pincers, pincered it, and then was basically trying to drag it back into the hole. Well, the fighter comes running in and sees that the magic user has been taken and is now going down the side of the cavern being held by the spider, decides just to and we had seen that the bottom of the chasm was water. There was water down there. Just launched themselves down and just thought, hey, you know what? I'm just going to barrel into this spider. Hopefully that'll knock the magic user loose, and then I'm going to try to basically grab the magic user and position myself so that when we hit the water, I'll take the impact and not the magic user. And we rolled some dice, and they did. And they went, plummeting, but the fighter absorbing the impact, and it was a kind of a really fun, cool moment. Not without more danger as they awakened something that was in the water at the bottom of the pool that led to another moment. But it was a fun thing of them just making this. When I saw it, because it was play by post, so when I saw them post, like, I'm gonna launch myself down, and I'm like, well, there's. No one's had a chance to find rope or do anything to help you. Like you were throwing yourself off of this ledge, hoping that you'll basically just be a bullet and just knock the spider and knock them loose. And they're like, "Yep." I was like, "All right, let's do it." And they did, and they ended up living. It worked. It worked as far as that goes. Fun moment. All right, so I've got trade winds up here. If it will allow me to share it. Window. Okay, show on screen. Here we go. This is Trade Winds, an items and services compendium by David L. McLeese. Just what? Oh, stuff's happening now. That's you, the Dave. Okay, so there you go. This is the Dave. So the Dave sent this to me. Didn't ask me for anything. I just said, hey, I'm going to be looking at LFG again today. So if I have time, and I kind of have a feeling that I might run out of the things I want to look at wouldn't take up the full hour. So if I've got time, we'll throw it up, take a look. So here it is. The back matter says, if you know where to look, you can find anything in a city. Trade winds don't just bring the weather with them. They also bring unimaginable wealth and utter ruin. The focus of this book is on non-magical gear, equipment, and services. It also features a monetary system that values all coin denominations, not just gold. There are a few more fantastical things presented here for those who are brave enough to utilize them. Trade Winds gives game masters and players a variety of new options, while not detracting from the tried and true systems we've all come to love. This book is designed as a supplement for low fantasy gaming by Pickpocket Press, but it may be used with many other systems and settings. So there we go. All right, let's take a look here. The money system seems really interesting. So maybe I'll go here. First, we got the table of contents. I will put a link to this on the drive-through link in the show notes after that if you're interested. I'm really curious about the money system. I'm always looking for money systems. All right, so here we're going. The money system. There are 5 types of coins in this system. They are ordered from lowest value to highest value. So we have pence, shilling, florin, crowns, and a pound. There are 10 pence in a shilling, 10 shilling in a florin, 10 florin in a crown, and 10 crowns in a pound. Most game systems use copper, silver, gold, and platinum as a currency, and if you would like to continue using them, just replace pence, shilling, florin, and crowns with those terms. TradeWinds also has additional denomination that is called pounds and is the most valuable form of minted currency. And then we can roll for prices, and basically the more rare it is, the more dice you're rolling. I always like, I haven't used that in my game that I'm running now. I'm still using kind of gold, silver, but I do like having kind of having fun with creating either multiple currencies for different cultures, or just having some more fun with that. Because I just think gold, silver, blah, blah. It is kind of boring. But I definitely fall into it. Okay, so that's cool. Let's see what else we have. So I'm just going to kind of skim through this because I don't have time to go through this completely. Or in depth, I should say. So we can roll for prices, which is cool. We can, you check the availability, which will help you check the price. You can also change the rarity of something. So I guess if something's very rare, but then the party's uncovered a whole boatload of them, maybe they go from very rare to rare or rare to uncommon. And here we have some examples. One has a drought, which causes some grain to become less common, and on the other hand, you might have a bumper crop, in which case the grains become more common. Oh, we get some coins. Pictures of coins. So we get our pence, and we get the pictures are nice too. I like that. It gives me something I can describe to the players if I wanted to get into what the different coins look like. Or I could even kind of hand that. I can almost print this out or copy paste into something and hand them out so they could get a look at them. All right, this might be interesting. So we have crafting. Crafting is typically the job of NPCs. It takes years of training, practice, and devotion to master a craft. The Dave, I agree with you, but I've done that rant already. I shan't do it again today. Most people with the skills and means to produce quality items have spent 10 or more years as an apprentice learning their trade. They maintain this skill with hard work and attention to detail that an adventurer would be hard-pressed to deliver. You are talking my language, the Dave. A character that has this background may find themselves in a situation to craft an object, provided they have also the tools needed to do such. Cost 2 fewer dice of the appropriate type to a minimum of 1 die to craft an item if the character has both the skill and the tools. Yeah, I'm not huge on the PC crafting, but I know people love it, so I don't begrudge people their crafting, but it's not really my jam, so to speak. Though, I mean, if my players were super interested in it, I would do it. I wouldn't let my own personal thing get in the way. I would just then have to come up with a system that makes it livable for me. Specialty metals. Example 1, a silvered spear becomes rare and costs 5d4 crown instead of 8d4 florin. Oh, ooh, I like that. Let me read this whole thing. I just jumped to the examples. Some items, such as weapons and armors, may be crafted out of specialty metals like adamantine, cold iron, mithril, or calcium or silver. The properties of these metals may not be combined. For a detailed list of what these metals do, we can go to further page. Crafting a weapon out of a special metal requires a weaponsmith. Crafting armor out of a special metal requires an armorsmith. Makes sense. Weapons and armor made of a special metal have their rarity increased by 2 and their denomination increased by 1. No rarity can exceed very rare. So, okay, so a silver... The only thing with these examples, Dave, is I would have been... Because I don't have it in front of me. Give me the before and after. So a regular spear is, what, common, and would cost 8d4 florin. Am I reading that right? Or it would be uncommon? Is a spear uncommon? No, a spear would be common. Though I would really say, wouldn't a spear be universal? But Brian Smith says, PCs are Batman, NPCs are Alfred. In the comics, did Alfred design most of Batman stuff? I mean, I suppose in the game where they were all tinkerers like that, I would have to figure out some way of doing tinkering. It's just in the fantasy sense, like, I'm not just big on the crafting, I guess, in the kind of MMORPG sense, where you're just crafting all kinds of crazy stuff. Maybe I'll have to think up a system that would work for me, and then put it out there so that people can tear it apart. A great axe is already very rare, and costs 60-10 florin normally. If made of adamantine, the number of dice does not change, but its denomination goes up to a crown. So it would be 60-10 crowns. I really like that. The concept of the having this, you never really think about that, which is really, I don't know if if you picked that out of some other system or if this is your own thing, but this concept of having them basically the coinage as kind of levels so that you can kind of tick up or tick down levels. Oh, okay, this is 10 silver, and but now you did this, and now it's 10 gold. I mean, I like that very much. Oh, Brian Smith says, I mean, like, heroes aren't also whipping up items in any other fiction. I mean, it tends to be like, yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of, your James Bond goes to Q, that sort of things. Like, I do like kind of a good MacGyvering up of stuff, right? And maybe that's where you could kind of separate crafting from tinkering, whereas tinkering, you're taking things that are, and kind of Batman is kind of some of that, right? Because saying, and I'm not a comic expert on Batman, but saying Batman Begins, he didn't create all that stuff, but he did tinker with it to make it suit him, so he gets that fabric that can make wings. He didn't create it. The folks over at Wayne Enterprises created it, but he tinkers with it to get it to work in the context of his costume. And the same thing, that tumbler Batmobile was pre-existing, but he probably added some stuff to it and tinkered with it, painted it black, that kind of thing. And then Terrence asks, wasn't Alfred an MI6 super spy? At least in one incarnation, I know they had that series Pennyworth that seemed to do that. So I think so. Alright. I do love that stuff with the coinage and moving stuff up and down. We get some starting gear. Here we get our weapons. Alright, so we can see that a spear is common. Interesting. These things are always fascinating because I would have put spears universal because, like, what culture doesn't have spears hanging around? But you've got it as common, but you have staffs as universal. A staff is universal, which also makes sense. Maybe just think that, well, you could have the staff, and if you're going to add the spearhead to the end of it, it drops it up. The Dave says, I think that is a base concept of copper, silver, gold. Just never seems to be used that way in terms of the going up or down kind of levels of currency. I agree, the Dave, but I think what you did really makes a lot of sense, and it makes things very simple because I can have this once I get this system in place. I can have someone like that and say, ooh, this guy's got a heavy hammer. It's uncommon. If this heavy hammer were to be made of cold iron, it goes from common to rare. I already know how much it's worth. Like, I can just look at this list and just, boom, come up with that stuff. And it just works really easy. Like, it's just, it syncs together really well to make some stuff really easy. I think the only thing, just in terms of wrapping my head around is rolling dice for the actual cost, because I don't have an actual, it's worth this much. I have to roll those dice, but I could also probably just figure out and go, I'll go with the averages unless I really want to be finicky with the costs. The costses. Oh, we get some nice pictures, too. And we get descriptions, which I'm going to skip. I appreciate the descriptions, but I don't have time for those. And now we get armor. Heavy robes or gambeson. Hide, leather, studded leather, chain shirts, scale shirts, breastplates, bone, reinforced hide, monstrous chitin. Yeah. Chainmail, plate mail, splint armor, and a ring mail. And then we get shields. And we get some more descriptions. We get a burden system, which is about just, what is it? Burden system adds to the realism. Burden systems add to the realism of the game, but shouldn't be all about keeping track of fiddly numbers. Trade Winds provides a burden system that is based off the number of items a character can carry. Characters can hold one backpack, which can hold either 12 or 20 items depending on the size of the bag, 2 satchel spots for special items such as a musical instrument case or a quiver, 6 belt patches for quick accessing items. Character holding more than that is encumbered and has disadvantage on all tasks. Smaller characters such as halflings are encumbered if they carry the larger backpack. It takes an action to recover an object from a backpack. Objects removed from your satchel and belt pouches may be used at the end of a round if you haven't been damaged this round. And we got some more rules. That's cool. I can dig it. And we got a whole bunch of equipment, and now we're getting all kinds of descriptions of said equipment. Ooh, what's that? Oh, masterwork instruments. Some magic items. What is that? A magnifying glass, very rare. Nice, nice. Ooh, trinkets and curiosities. Trinkets and curiosities are little objects that carry huge mysteries with them. Many of these objects in this list are mundane, but some of the items have obvious magical properties. Trinkets are just intended to be found in the world, not bought, but some exceptions may apply. Game masters always have the final say about items in their world. So I kind of like this. You just roll, and if you want to, these kind of things are really cool because I think when you think about something like, I don't know, your rogue gets shifty, decides to pickpocket somebody in the town square, you want to give them something a little extra that maybe adds to the mystery, then, you give them, say, in their belt pouch, they find this, maybe they cut the belt pouch off and they open it up and there are 2d12 animal figures carved from the bones of the animals they represent. The figures each have small sapphire eyes. To the right collector, they may be very valuable. They also could be magical. They also could mark out that person as belonging to a cult or something, which would clearly maybe not be happy with that person when that was missing, and obviously they might be starting to search out whoever did the thievery. So when you try to unload it to somebody saying, hey, I got these interesting animals, is that person a cult member? Does the cult get wind of it? That could be a whole adventure thing up and of itself, all out of a trinket. And that's why I really like those tables. And I thought we were maybe getting 20, but we are getting a solid 100 trinkets. Oh, and we're getting clothes. A bleout, which is a dress. Oh, you get the nice surcoat, tunic. Definitely get your underclothes. All good stuff. We've got potions. Ash Render's Bite. A rare component of black ooze and 2 pounds of adamantine. Wow, 2 pounds of adamantine. Draughts of eldritch, or is it drafts? I always get that. I think it's draft of eldritch bolstering. Love potions. Zubu's ether, or aether, eldritch ease, or Essa. Very cool stuff. Let's see. Nice pictures, too. Zubu's Aether has some random effects. One of which is the caster has ripped the veil and must roll on the dark and dangerous magic chart. If this triggers more than once, roll on the dangerous dark magic chart each time it is rolled. Wow. And the universe is destroyed on that failed roll. We've got some poison, toxicity, and addiction rules. A handy-dandy poison toxicity chart. That's 100 strong. Oh, lifestyles. That's something I need to bring in my game that I don't do enough with, is really pushing the players to invest in their kind of lifestyle. You want to be presentable at court. You can't be wandering around like some kind of hobo that doesn't wash, wearing the same clothes for 3 weeks. You got to dress the part, which means you got to spend money. And when people are asking, well, what can I get my players to spend money on? So yeah, they want to present themselves a certain way. They want to look like heroes. Then they got to dress like heroes. Same thing, and meals too, because if you are all dressed to the nines, but then you're dining at the lowest end drudgery tavern, and you're eating the lowest cost gruel, people are going to notice that, and they're going to think, well, maybe they must have stolen those clothes or something, right? You got to show. You got to fight for your right to party. Oh, we got some beverages, including Wumpty. The seed is a coffee-like beverage made from the seeds of the bogwomp tree. But it's not. Is it as powerful as mugwumpjism? I don't think so. And that's a Naked Lunch reference. Don't at me. Brian Smith says prestidigitation ruins that for me. Prestidigitation. Yes, you would probably need to figure out. I mean, if you're playing in a game where you have prestidigitation as a cantrip or something you can cast all the time, then yes, I wouldn't mind it if they want to spend one of their spell slots every day to pretend, because you can still get caught, right? If you're, you where are you staying? You're staying at that nastiest inn in the city, and you're gonna always be climbing out the back window and into the back alley, and then you're gonna cast prestidigitation to make yourself look fancy. There's still ways you can get kind of caught up in the lie, and you're still investing something. If it's kind of cantripalicious, and you just can't do it all day long, all the time, then yeah, it makes it a little bit harder. And then the Dave says that spell doesn't exist in low fantasy gaming. It makes the game better. And we get alcoholic beverages. Ooh, we get rations. Rations by species. Dwarven rations. Elven rations. Halfling mash rations. Millweed rations. Scorn rations. Give me a box of Scorn. What is a Scorn? Is there a species called Scorn? No. Yes? Oh, but if you're used to Scorn rations, you get a +2 to willpower checks. And you get your old trail mix. You get animals, riding camels, riding dogs, donkeys, hippogriffs. Ooh, giant squirrels. Very rare. Oh, that's a great picture. And I just wonder what happens when that giant squirrel sees a giant nut. Like you're scrambling up the trees for days. Pets and farm animals, man. This has got it all covered. The Dave, you did an excellent job. You've covered all the bases. Animals, saddles, packs, and barding. We get travel, paying for ship travel, land transport, vehicles. Yes, I know it's vehicles. Land vehicles, water vehicles, air vehicles. Someone tell me, Scorn is a race in. Okay, so Scorn is a race. That makes sense. Someone explain to me what it's. I feel like I've seen this a lot, and not just recently, but for a fair amount of time. What is the obsession with a lot of folks in airships? Is it just a Final Fantasy thing, or because I remember, probably my first that I can recall. Influence or not maybe of seeing occurrence of airships in kind of a fantasy sort of sense was Final Fantasy VII. You get the airship, but I feel like everyone in their cousin's world now have airships, and I'm just curious as to why. Wow, okay, you spent a year on the book, and it shows, the Dave. It shows indeed. So we got all kinds of ships, air vehicles, trade goods. So remember we covered a couple of weeks ago now, I guess it was that hey, you want to play as a merchant? Well, here you go. You got your trade goods, spices, herbs, fruits, and vegetables by the gallon. And see, there's no weird okay, we're gonna have nice and easy, just gallons, bolts, pounds. Brian Smith is Final Fantasy. Yeah, that's what I thought. It just seems to be ubiquitous in so many homebrew things. I say, at least judging by internet, what I see on Reddit and Facebook and everything. I feel like it's like every day I'm seeing somebody, hey, I want to introduce airships, or oh, my party got their first airship, or there's just something with airships, and it's just like, and I don't have anything against airships. It seems like they're in everyone's game everywhere, and I feel like it adds from a technical standpoint. I just think an airship just puts a lot of pressure on you as a GM. We've talked about hex crawling, and part of the thing is you can sort of use to kind of help is the distance and resources and everything kind of help control the pace of travel up until that point where they start to unlock things. And things like spells, once you have teleport and these other spells, then they're bouncing all over the map and you have to be prepped for that. But at least you have time to kind of build that out. I suppose if you unlock, however you're keeping airships away from your party, if they're in the world and they can't get to them until they're level whatever, then it's the same difference. But if you give them to them right away and then you're just going to let them travel wherever they want, it really puts a lot of pressure because now you really don't know where they're going to go. The Dave says, airships are best when filled with hydrogen. Nothing better than blowing up a player's airship. Very true. Oh, the humanity. Yeah. Wait, what was this? Hold on a minute. Oh, shops and services. I was just kind of skipping forward. Ooh, you get alchemists, almshouses, armorsmiths, assassins, artists, barbers, barristers, bathhouses, blacksmiths. Man, you got the Dave's got you covered in here. I mean, I'm not even reading through these anymore, but you can see there you got everything you want. Potters, scribes, botanicals, trade goods, stables, tailors, taverns, wainwrights, thatchers. That guy who is not a weaver, but maybe he's on guard outside the weaver, looking fancy in his complete chainmail outfit. Item population charts. The item population charts are designed for game masters to be able to quickly populate a room, location, or adventures pack. These charts don't cover all the items in these places, but can be used as scaffolding to build from. Okay, cool. So you need someone, so let's say there's a dead adventurer's body that you've conjured out of thin air and you want to kind of roll to see what he's got. You can roll once, twice, a couple times. Oh, you know, maybe if you roll and you get, oh, you got cookware, well, that kind of tells you something about adventurer, and maybe you can just say, well, someone else must have scavenged the rest of his stuff, but he's still got his cookware. The Dave says there's no real teleportation in LFG. Good to know. I don't mind teleportation at the time you get it, at the level you get it. I just think that maybe it's just this because I see that too with teleportation circles and things like that. Like GMs get maybe ahead of themselves and I want to have their party like zip zap across the whole world, and I just feel like I'm more like, hey, let's scale it down. Let's let things build up slowly, right? Now I'm fine for you getting teleport at some point, but you don't need to rush and give it to them at level 2 when you as a GM aren't ready. Your world may not be ready. They're not ready. Scale it back. Oh, griffins apparently are very tasty. Oh, their eggs are tasty. Griffin eggs, super tasty. I like that they're even, it's like we have an editorial note. They are mega tasty. And this is all just random. These are just charts. Hey, we love ourselves some random charts and an index, thankfully, because there is a ton here. Well, we've gone over, but the Dave, I really appreciate you sending this to me. This is really an awesome resource. And I think you could use this certainly with low fantasy gaming, which I wouldn't be opposed to, but I think you could also use it with any kind of OSR game, even probably 5th edition. You could use it. I like the currencies you've come up with. There's a ton of content in here for any kind of things you want to do. I feel like I could probably, in terms of commerce, I could flip through and find it. And I think giving all the descriptions is really almost going above and beyond the Call of Duty, because I think a lot of things you can get away with just having like these little tables of service and cost. But hey, you actually run down and give some explanation, which is awesome, because folks, if they're new or they just don't know, they don't have a good idea themselves about this stuff, they can get a little bit of that knowledge. And it's not just, you know, if something I might say, oh, well, like one of the D30 things, you go, you know, maybe it's just a big tables, and once you get past those tables, you really got to figure it all yourself. And this is nice because it's not just tables and lists and indices of things, but it actually gives descriptions and things like that, which can be helpful for folks. So, the Dave, super appreciate it. Thanks everybody who hung out for this one. I hope you found the stuff with luck and exploits and rescues in low fantasy gaming interesting. I know I did. It was really intriguing, and it's definitely stuff that now I'm thinking about, ooh, how can I leverage these amazing ideas? Thanks to Dave for his book, and let me get back up to the beginning so we can see the cover again, and I can get the name. I believe it's called Trade Winds. I'll get the links in the show notes, but until then, it's called Trade Winds and Items and Services Compendium by David L. McLeese. It is on drive-thru. Like I said, I'll get those links. Folks, thanks so much for hanging out. If you could give the video a thumbs up on your way out, that would be awesome. If you're found yourself in here and you're not subscribed and you feel like subscribing, that would also be awesome. Dave says, almost every item book is just magic items. GMs want to make magic items. We need books for mundane stuff. I agree completely, and usually the thing you're looking for when you need something isn't the magic something. It's that mundane something. When your players decide, ooh, we do want to be traders because we're here, and you're going, well, what can you trade? And, ooh, what can you trade? Ooh, yeah. Well, look, you can go back there and find bolts of cloth and cheese and all kinds of other things that you can say, this sounds like they might have this in this town. This is something you can buy in bulk, and you've got it in the book. So really awesome stuff. Have a good rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Apologies for the going mute and knocking out my own power source there for a minute. And apologies for starting late, but hopefully it was worthwhile. Game on, and talk to you later, everybody.